It's the Security Weekly News. It's episode 477. That's right. It's Friday, the 16th of May. Already kind of summery, right? Well, depends on where you are. Sorry, Australia. But Steganography, RICO, CMMC, the end of 10. AI is coming for you. Aaran, Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps, just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step toward total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today. All right, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment. Or, well, what are my options here? Okay, summer is canceled. You have a strange burning sensation, or you have died of cholera. You pick. Yeah. All right. CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency, issued a warning to federal agencies advising that a recently patched Chrome vulnerability was being actively exploited. Solid Lab discovered this flaw and shared the details online on the 5th of May, which of course results in, I'm not saying they shouldn't share it. I'm just saying that's when it starts. And Google patched it on Wednesday, which would have been 6th to 14th of May. The vulnerability is due to insufficient policy enforcement in Google Chrome's loader component. And basically, it can allow somebody to leak what is called cross-origin data, which is very, very bad. Yeah. CISA said it was being actively exploited in the wild. Now, as ever, that means if you're a U.S. federal civilian executive branch agency or a FACEB, I don't know if they have an acronym, but you have to patch this within 3 weeks by executive order, which is apparently how we run the country now. And that was a Biden executive order. But basically, for the rest of us, patch this right now and just put on your notes, review our patching plan. I just constantly see this stuff where people are going, I need to patch this within 3 weeks. And I'm like, you can't patch this any faster than that? I get it. I feel your pain, but really, you can't so patch as quickly as you can or mitigate, block it out. You're going to have to keep people from getting to it if you can't. And speaking of Google, I saw the word steganography in a headline and it got my eye. Google steganography was one of those things that people really got all worked up about when I used to teach forensics boot camps. And, it's really not something we saw that much in practice because either you'll never figure it out or it's not there at all. But Google Calendar is being used for NPM malware. And this was discovered by Veracode. So basically what they were doing was the package was using Unicode steganography to hide all the code in invisible characters. That's clever, right? Now, steganography is a term that's used when you hide something inside something else. And no, I don't think that's what it's called when you accidentally sit on a turnip and end up in the ER. But it is a popular subject in forensics. So they hide a string in a calendar invite. And the string is a base 64 encoded URL that's stored in the event, which executes a payload. Yeah. Now, the codes they used were in this thing that's called, and I honestly did not know what this was, the Variation Selectors Supplement Unicode block. And I looked this up to see what it was. Unicode is huge, right? And it's got all kinds of stuff in it. It's got every character set for every language, every keyboard, everything everywhere. And it's probably what we should be using, but these variation selectors are the invisible characters, but they're used to modify the appearance of the preceding characters, which allows things like alternate versions of kanji code that's used by like Japanese administrative officials or something like that, and all kinds of other like diacriticals and things like that. So it's a very interesting attack that I think would be very hard to block, because if you're getting invites, and we all are, you might not even notice this thing if it was sitting right there in plain sight, right? Let alone if it's in invisible characters. Your boss would like to meet with you Wednesday at 9, but if it was invisible, I mean, now it's pretty tricky. So again, like all these squad codes, typo squatting and Unicode and all that stuff. So you might want to think about how best to advise your people on invites and what your policy is for filtering them for legitimacy, because anybody can send anybody a Google invite. But should you be accepting invites from offsite? Well, maybe you need to. I get invites from offsite and so forth. So I think you're going to see more of this kind of thing. Patch, maybe just keep this in mind. There's not a patch for it at this point that I know of. So mitigate, maybe is the word I should be using. RICO. What does RICO even stand for? Rico Suave. No, Tony Soprano worried about RICO a lot, and they use it in every TV show, and to go after organized crime or motorcycle gangs like Sons of Anarchy. They were the Sons of Anarchy were always worried about RICO or something like that. So I did look it up, and it stands for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. A mouthful. It's kind of like one of those, like, RICO is a cool acronym. What can we make that stand for? But it is a U.S. law from the Nixon era, and it was passed in 1970. And it was probably so Tricky Dick could go after those filthy hippies or something, or who knows what. But it does allow for the prosecution of individuals who are involved in patterns of behavior. And if someone has committed at least 2 acts of racketeering activity from a list of 25 federal and 10 state crimes within a 10-year period, they can be charged with racketeering. So it's kind of like a meta charge, really. And if they get you on this, you have to forfeit all your ill-gotten gains plus interest, and they can seize all your assets pre-trial. So that means they basically freeze everything you own, seize everything, and then until you go to trial in 2 years from now, you got nothing. So I can see why Tony Soprano was a bit worried about this. But anyway, the RICO Act was used to charge 12 more suspects for being involved in crypto thefts of over $230 million and laundering that money using other crypto. Now, those attacks occurred on the 18th of August and resulted in 4,100 Bitcoins being stolen from a Washington, D.C. victim. So it was really one person, like $230 million worth of Bitcoin. And so if I had $230 million worth of Bitcoin, I guarantee I'd be protecting that with my life. But what they did was they targeted the victim using spoofed phone numbers and impersonated customer support at Google and Gemini, those phone calls you get all the time. And they got the victim to reset their 2-factor authentication and share their screen via AnyDesk by claiming the account had been compromised. And wow, I think I used that in 1982 to try to do a pen test, and got in using that very same tactic, although there was no multi-factor at the time. I just got the person to give me their badge number, their login, their password, their mother's maiden name, and a whole bunch of other stuff by saying someone's using your account to compromise the organization. They did convert all these assets to Monero, but they left some links to laundered funds and so forth, so they eventually got tracked down. But they had violated the first rule of heist movies. I mean, they went on crazy spending sprees. This didn't help, right? So some of these people that were arrested were spending up to $500,000 in one evening at a nightclub. I would like to see what that looks like. I mean, the first rule of heists, you have to wait to spend the money. I mean, every single heist plot is always like one person decides, you know what, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get rid of that 1978 Ford LTD I've been driving and buy a Bugatti Chiron for $3 million. And everybody's going, no, man, you can't do that. They'll notice. And then you crash the Bugatti into your LTD wagon that you forgot you had from all the bottles of Cristal you drank at Paul's Casablanca last night. How do you spend $500,000 in one night at a club? But next time you're going to do that, please invite me. I'll cover it live. I'd just like to be there to see what that's like. Or the Blonde. That's a really hard club to get into. but I bet if you had 500,000 to spend, they'd let you in. Yeah. All right. Well, like it or not, rules do sometimes force people into better situations. Remember the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire? I talked about that a lot. That was a very famous thing, and it got us fire codes and fire exits that haven't been chained shut. Although you can't sneak into Paul's Casablanca that way. But can you imagine me in Paul's Casablanca? Aaran, I can see Aaran there. And he would be very popular. But me, yeah, no, I would never. I've never even got within the distant horizon of coolness enough to, or money enough to even go look at the place from the street. I mean, I can get in the ear in, but yeah. Anyway, the new cybersecurity maturity model certification rules for the U.S. Department of Defense is trying to push contractors to upgrade their internal security. And you probably already knew this, especially if you're a contractor. DoD contractors have to meet at least level 2 of the 3-level cert within the next 3 years to qualify for certain contracts. There are so many hedges in this order. It's like, really, guys? like 3 years to comply? Like, wow. Will this thing even be germane in 3 years? I really, that kind of stuff bothers me. I mean, I know it's difficult. I mean, you're a contractor. You don't want to lose your contract. I get it. But it's just like, really? 3 years? And how strict is this anyway? Now, the article says that companies are scrambling to make sure they reach the new requirements before they risk losing lucrative government contracts. And I was like, scrambling? 3 years? I mean, I guess if scrambling means you need to take action sometime in the next 3 years. And of course, there are government budget cycles, right? So it's like, I've been there, and it is the government. But according to Daltech, 55% of contractors of the DoD said their projects will involve a CMMC requirement. 43% said they will likely need to meet level 2 standards, and 34% said they would likely need to meet level 3 requirements. You can look this document up if you want to see what it looks like. But I mean, if you look at the document, and it's a lot of stuff, and I'm sure for companies that have never had to do any of this, which is terrifying that they got top secret contracts and they're like, oh yeah, we don't use least privilege. We don't have much of anything. That's pretty scary. Now, granted, this means an audit and all that. So probably audit firms are going to be ramping up to hire people. Hello. But that kind of thing. Anyway, I get it. It takes a lot of time to implement this stuff. It's a big change. It's a big change in organization. It takes a lot of money to make these changes. And, just the fact that you go from a mainframe from 1978 that has a single shared password across 6,000 people to, we have to use zero trust and least privilege. Like, I mean, I've been in that conversation before and listened to the company going, what? Like, yeah, everybody would have to have an account. We'd have to know what they have access to. And they're like, oh my God. Yeah, I know you hate me. It's okay. The End of 10. Saw that title. I was like, post-apocalyptic suicide cult. I don't know. The End of 10 is a group trying to convince us that maybe buying new machines is not always necessary when operating system developers decide to tell us that we have to buy new machines. And they were talking about how this move from Windows 10 to Windows 11 is going to create massive amounts of tech waste because Microsoft decided that we had to have a different set of hardware in order to move to Windows 11. And that seems to be the way everything is going. And of course, Microsoft is going to end of life Windows 10. Now, I'm not trying to tell you where to stand politically. And if you're in that camp of burn it all, I run my giant truck on coal oil and produce more smoke than the Industrial Revolution between 1875 and 1910 just to get out of the driveway, that's your business. I don't like it, but that's your business. But we do create a lot of tech waste. And in some cases, the tech waste is stupid because it's valuable stuff that you just throw away because you can't use it for some standard. And I mean, I see this all the time at schools. I see this all the time in companies. They've got 10,000 laptops in boxes on shelves down, next to the Ark of the Covenant. So the idea here by these folks was that, especially in light, with this Microsoft 11 thing, and I guess that End of 10 is where the name came from. They said, maybe you could try something else, like maybe say Linux. They were talking about Chrome OS, Ubuntu. I mean, and I'm not suggesting, and I even though I have in the past, that you roll out Arch Linux to all your endpoints, but maybe not all your users need to be super power users in Windows or even low power users. I mean, does old Gil down in marketing really need a fancy Alienware laptop running Windows 11 to check weather.com 35 times in one day? I really saw that once in an audit. We were watching traffic, and this guy went to the weatherchannel.com like 15 times in one day. And I was like, it was all new and shiny back then. And I was like, really? It's still raining and you have a window in your office. How about Linux Mint with Cinnamon? I recommend that all the time. So what if you could just multi-tier your support? And I know this is usually the big stumbling block. We don't want to support Windows and Linux. We don't want to have to train people or hire people. But what if you could reuse those 10,000 Dell laptops that won't run Windows 11 and put Cinnamon on them and let people use that? I mean, I get parents all the time saying, I hate to ask, but what kind of computer does she need for cybersecurity? Now, usually by the time that question gets asked to me, the kid has suggested the Alienware Area 51 that costs $5,000. And I go, have you considered a Chromebook or a used Lenovo running Mint? Probably $300. The kid usually gives you a big eye roll at that point. But I mean, so if you're unhappy about tech waste, or better, you're unhappy that Microsoft decided for you that you needed all new hardware in your entire enterprise to run Windows 11, and you've got 10,000 old laptops laying around, maybe wipe them down with one of those, Clorox wipes and reissue them with, I don't know, Mint Cinnamon. Give it a try. Do a test. Nucor, a North Carolina U.S.-based steel manufacturer. I didn't know there was any such thing left, but they paused production due to a server breach based on an 8K filing this week. That wasn't why they shut down, but they released an 8K. See, some of the rules help. An 8K filing is required by the Securities and Exchange Commission to report to shareholders and anybody else that wants to read it when certain events happen. And the 8K said that an unauthorized third party accessed their systems and they activated their incident response plan and took the systems offline. I mean, I was really pleased to see somebody even saying that. Now, they're only doing it because they're required to, of course. But I mean, remember when you asked those guys in Kansas if they had an incident response plan and they just looked at you like you started speaking Swahili, which is the coolest language, by the way. I loves to hear people speak Swahili, but they didn't really say much more about what happened. But my point is, are you ready? Have you tested your incident response plan lately? Or is it in a binder in the back of old Gil's desk drawer with a bottle of Four Roses laying on top of it underneath a copy of the Playmate calendar from 1981? I mean, 8K, a very interesting thing, and it helps to let all of us in on what's going on. I personally think it should require more information be released, like what exactly was compromised. Maybe not the systems, but like, what was used, so that we can all go, oh, wow, they're all compromising X. Oh, sorry, that's a product now. Y. Now, this story was about students being unhappy. Imagine that a professor was using AI when the student was told not to use it. Now, note, one of these individuals is a professor who already learned the material and passed the class, and one is a student who's supposedly trying to learn. Not the same thing at all. Now, the student didn't like that the professor was using slides with graphics created by ChatGPT. Oh, no. I've been ripped off. The professor made graphics with ChatGPT? Oh, no. I mean, that's your complaint? I mean, what's the difference if the AI makes a graphic for the conjoined triangles of business, or I draw it myself in Visio, except one takes a lot more time and will look really bad? Really? The student also didn't like that the professor was providing them with some lecture notes to help them with material, and it appeared that they had had the lecture notes developed by ChatGPT. Oh, no. Like, even if ChatGPT wrote the lecture, so what? I mean, it's not the same thing. The professor was trying to help you. Isn't that handy? No, you don't want those notes. You'd rather have no notes? Yeah. I mean, to me, there's a big difference between using AI to prepare lecture notes from a class that you did and using AI to write your paper where you're supposed to be learning something or do your math problems or write your code for you. I mean, if I used a bunch of slides provided by a textbook company, which they used to do all the time, they would send you like a box full of slides to use. What's the difference? I didn't understand the student's complaint, but the student was outraged and filed a suit demanding that tuition be refunded for the class. Now, look, most professors I know want you to learn, and that they're putting together materials to try to help you learn. They're giving you assignments to help you learn how to do something. It's not just to make you miserable. It's to try to get you to do something. But what difference does it make how they facilitate your learning? I'm not saying that you should use ChatGPT to grade your papers or speak your lectures for you. You shouldn't use ChatGPT to write papers or write, maybe not even write lectures. But if ChatGPT gave you some lecture notes, so what? I mean, what's the difference in that and Googling it? It's just not the same thing as when a student is using this to plagiarize a paper or cheat on a test or even a shortcut to training exercise in coding. It's not the same thing to me. I mean, I do ask ChatGPT things like that all the time. Like, I'm talking about Zeke. Here's some stuff I already put together. Here's some notes I made. Do you have any thoughts? And I often get back new directions and information that I wasn't aware of for that to help me learn stuff. So regardless of your position, you probably need to get a handle on this, whether you're academic or not. I mean, what is your company's policy? How's it going to be applied to everyone? And is that going to be in different ways, or is it going to be the same? And how's that going to affect your productivity going forward? And be careful that you don't overreach. But is it okay for a bot to make sales calls? Can a manager ask for employee reviews? It's here and it's not going away. Try and ban it and watch how well that's going to work for you. And educators, you better get on board, because guess what? All the students are using this stuff already. And maybe all your professors are using stuff too. I don't know. But what is it, and what do we do about it? Well, he's not artificial, but he is an example of intelligence, poison, grace. Who wrote that? It's Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaran.
Haha, I wrote that and left it on the teleprompter.
That's where it came from.
When I was here on Tuesday, I was like, yeah, let's poison, SEO poison Doug.
Yeah, I think I wrote seething like a pile of rotting garbage or something like that, but
Oh yeah, and that's just that
squirming. Squirming is such a good word.
Squirming, squelchy.
I love the word
squirming.
squirmy.
I like the word squelch.
Squelch. Yeah, that's in all horror movies, right? When you turn the subtitles on, like squelching.
Squelch.
We were actually counting how many times it said squelching in that our latest Art the Clown movie.
Anyway,
squelching.
Let's move on from squelching.
Yeah, probably should get away from the word squelching now. Okay, Aaran.
Okay, I've probably got too much words here, so let's do it really fast. Okay, first part of a two-piece part is hidden backdoors in solar inverters raise alarm. And yes, we're back on my favorite subject, which is not AI, it's China. Link in show notes as always, and the website's had a recent refresh if you haven't been over there in a while. So, the discovery of rogue communication devices inside Chinese manufactured solar inverters used across the US has sent shockwaves through the energy sector. Shockwaves, I tell thee. Investigators found undocumented America loves undocumented things, don't you? Undocumented cellular radio modules embedded in grid-connected devices, raising fear of hidden kill switches. You also love that. Capable of remotely disabling power infrastructure. So these components not listed in product manuals can bypass firewalls and enable external access to the inverters. So experts warn that such backdoors could be exploited to shut down systems or cause blackouts, and effectively weaponizing parts of the US energy grid. Okay. There is a built-in way to physically destroy the grid, one official warned, although it was not named. Why couldn't they name that person? So this is so cool and totally not cool at the same time. While the functionality might support benign remote maintenance, intelligence sources, I did some air quotes there for anybody on the radio, told Reuters that an incident last year saw solar inverters across several countries mysteriously disabled from China, highlighting the geopolitical stakes. The US Department of Energy acknowledged the risks, stating it's reassessing technologies for hidden functions, though it stopped short of attributing malicious intent. Look at all this fun. And we just brought it all on ourselves, wanting cheap stuff, right? And while China plays a game that's hundreds of years, we just want cheap stuff. Give me the cheap stuff. So, former NSA director Mike Rogers, he gets everywhere, he must be super smart, underscored the strategic concern. China's goal may be less about immediate sabotage and more about establishing leverage. Yes, the long game. If Chinese components dominate energy grids, unplugging them becomes as dangerous as leaving them operational, a form of strategic entrenchment. There you go. Okay, the second part today, and me connected to the problem, is that drone supply chains are also targeted by Chinese hackers. So simultaneously, the drone sector has faced a wave of sophisticated attacks. A group called Earth Amit, believed to be linked to Chinese state hackers. Yes, of course they are. Reportedly breached drone manufacturing supply chains in Taiwan and South Korea. Of course, because China just loves Taiwan so much, they want it for themselves. So between 23-24, Emmett launched 2 campaigns, Venom and Tridone, targeting upstream vendors. This was all the cool stuff. Injected custom malware into routine updates, like so cool. And literally remote access Trojans, and they had remote control over critical systems, all while evading detection. Well, not until the end. And Trend Micro said, just like, this is just stuff that they do, basically. I paraphrased that. So, Beijing denies malice, but doubts persist. This is so funny. No, it is so serious. I mean, China has flatly rejected the allegations. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington told Reuters that the claims of sabotage are distortion and smearing under the guise of national security. That's what they'd say, right? And Beijing insists that it's being unfairly stigmatized and portrays itself as a victim of international hacking campaigns. Come on, China, stop playing the victim. You're the bad guy, like the bad guys and girls, and you just like hack stuff and steal stuff, intellectual property. Anyway, so it's all a bit ambiguous, but that's the way they like it, and that's what APTs do. China's dominance becoming a bigger issue, said Philip Schroeder, head of German solar firm, and he goes on about, look, not that long ago, there was just about no China stuff in it, and now it's over 50%. So, to be honest, it's really bad. Okay, there's loads in there about asymmetric warfare. It's just bad stuff. And I'll finish on this one. One US congressman put it, the threat we face from Chinese Communist Party is real and growing. Allowing Chinese firms to remain embedded in critical infrastructure is increasingly seen as unacceptable. Just rip it all out. Anyway, back to Dr. Doug, who's definitely not a cheap Chinese product or copy. Dr. Doug!
Yay! Thanks, Aaron. Hey, I'm willing to be a stooge for money, though. I mean, I always like how they talk about communists, and they're like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but they're not really communists. It's like the most capitalistic country. I mean, it's just totally ruthless capitalism going on, but it's communist. That's why it's bad. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You bet. But thanks, Aaron. All right. Well, since I was already ranting about AI, I had one more AI rant for the day. And this headline was how fast the AI model has eaten the American educational system. If you want me to be on a panel or something to talk about higher ed, I'll be happy to. So just let me know. But I mean, basically, New York Magazine had this story, and they were, or this article was about the New York Magazine story, and they were talking to undergraduate college students, and they basically were, you know, asking them about AI and so forth. And one of them basically said that they used ChatGPT to write an essay to get into Columbia, Ivy League school, upper West Side, Manhattan. And they said they had another one who did all their assignments in an Ivy League school with ChatGPT and was like a straight A student, et cetera. And when they asked them, one of the students said that Ivy League school assignments were not relevant, and that, but you know, and the other person said they wanted, because they asked him, why did you want to go to an Ivy League school in the first place if all you were going to do was use AI to generate, you know, all your work? And they said, oh, it's a great place to meet a co-founder or a wife. I mean, okay. I mean, I think, you know, in higher ed, and this affects you as employers, because I know sometimes they talk about higher ed and you go, yeah, here's another professor talking about higher ed. But I'm with you. I want students to be produced that actually can fill the needs that you have, not just I'm here to crank people out. And I think we're entering strange waters, you know, all of you, because you're going to be dealing with these students when they come in. And I don't know, maybe this is just an evolution. Maybe this is like people saying the steam engine, I hate it. What a bunch of crap. Or I don't know, maybe it's something else, but it is affecting education profoundly. I mean, I see students now getting perfect scores on exams, and I'm going, there was just no way to prevent them from using ChatGPT during their exam unless I just print the exam out on paper and hand score it, which I may have to start doing because I don't see a way around this. I mean, they've got a phone, they've got a laptop. I don't have a way to restrict what they go to while they're taking the exam. I know there's services that do that, but we don't have it, and it's very expensive. So I don't know. Term papers? AI can crank out a term paper ranging from a 5th grade book review to a dissertation in just a few minutes. I've been fiddling with it. You can tell it what grade level you want the paper written at, and the papers are pretty good. You can tell it, make sure this doesn't look like it was written by AI. And Jim and I will go, oh, I can't help you with that. And you go, oh, no, it's just an experiment. And then it goes, oh, okay. I mean, then ChatGPT is a little more like wink, wink, nudge, nudge with all this stuff. But I mean, I spent months on the lit review for my dissertation, and I bet ChatGPT could crank me a rough draft of that thing out in just a few minutes. So I don't know where I stand. I mean, the argument in this paper or this article was that it's going to make you stupid, that you're not going to know how to do anything. You're going to become so dependent on this. It's going to be like how dependent we are on GPS and Google Maps and all this kind of stuff because we don't even know, maybe where our house is located anymore. I mean, I don't really disagree with that. It's a lot easier to ask Gemini to crank out a script that configures the server than it is to figure all that out yourself. And, you don't really learn anything. You're just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And I feel guilty about it when I do stuff like that. Cause I'm like, wow, I mean, even though I'm not doing it for my job, it's like some hobby thing, but I'm like, wow, I bet I could have had ChatGPT write those Gen 2 sound drivers I always talk about for the Turtle Beach sound card that in a couple of minutes. And instead, me and Lou spent weeks of suffering trying to get that to work. But boy, do we learn a lot. But I also don't want to be the guy going, back in my day, we wrote our own drivers and we liked it. You kids today with your fancy, I don't want to be like that either because I embrace technology. But in the end, I think we all need to be looking at this from a policy perspective, just like that other story I did. Don't get on the bandwagon, the old ban it. It's bad. I mean, I remember that with the internet, right? People like companies going, we're not going to allow these employees to have access to this interweb thing. It's a bunch of crap. It's better, I think, to start addressing it now. Figure out what this is going to do to you from an employment, hiring, evaluation. I mean, if you've got future employees and they look awesome on paper because ChatGPT wrote their stuff, and then you bring them in and they can't write their way out of a paper bag, and that's really what the job's about, that could be a problem. I mean, I think we're going to have to learn how to live with it. How are you going to teach people programming? I don't know, because they're going to cheat like crazy. I mean, I can tell you, they're going to cheat like crazy and produce great code. The AI can crank out code so fast in any language you want. It's so good that it's obvious it didn't come from a student. But what do you do about that? I mean, now you're back in the boat of how do I determine the student didn't cheat? Well, good luck. You give them a test. Oh, they cheated on the test too. I mean, I know that's cynical, and certainly I'm not saying all students cheat, but I mean, did the student actually learn anything about coding, or did they just learn how to ask a question? Do they even know how to ask a question? Maybe that's what they need to be learning. I don't know. It's all very scary. And maybe I will just go sit on the front porch and yell at clouds or something like that. Anyway, that is the news. Thank you, Aaran, and we'll see you next time on the Security Weekly News.